Welcome to the Jen Cares Powered by Chosen Live podcast, a podcast that brings the community to you. Each week, we feature a guest that will help us stay in the know. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, comment, and share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now here's your host, Jen Cares.
Well, good evening, and welcome to Jen Cares, powered by Chosen Counselors. I am your host, Jen Cares, the founder of Chosen Counselors, a nonprofit organization that seeks to inspire, motivate, empower, and strengthen individuals and families. As always, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in, for liking, for commenting, and sharing. You know, whether you hit that share button or you share what's shared in conversations with someone, I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. Friends, as we are going into a new school year, I thought, let's go back to school for us older ones, okay? There are some things we need to be reminded of. If not you, me, so join me on the journey, okay? Last year we offered our second conference, which is one of our mission and goals to do, offer conferences. And our second conference was a first. It was called A Day of Hope. And it was for our youth and for our parents. It was a virtual event. It was an amazing free event. We gave away gift cards galore to the kids, and even presenters received some. And we talked about healthy relationships. We talked about spending and saving. We talked about getting home safe. Had some police officers come and share about that. We talked about mental health matters, because, you know, that's what I like to talk about. We talked about planning for your future, using social media well. I should probably bring that one back because, friends, once you put something out there, it's out there and it can come back to bite you, okay? We held 2 parent sessions, one on parent communication, one on parent advocacy, and I worked with some amazing people to get that going, and I'm so grateful. One of the takeaways, though, was the I Am Hope Pledge, and I want to share that with you. Check it out.
I am healthy.
I am open.
I am present.
I am encouraged.
I am happy.
I am optimistic.
And I am positive. I am energetic. I am heroic. I am original. I am peaceful.
I am peaceful.
I am in power.
I am healed.
I am overcoming.
I am powerful.
I am enough.
I am hope.
I am hope.
I am hope.
I am in hope. I am hope.
I am hope.
I am hope.
I am hope.
Friends, that was such an amazing day, and that was one of my favorite takeaways, just seeing the young people sending their videos, and the excitement that they have of knowing that they are hope. And friends, guess what? You are hope too, okay? This world, it's a lot of things that's going on, but our goal is to encourage someone. My goal is to encourage someone with my life that there is hope. And I really do enjoy helping others. And tonight we're going to talk about an office that is underutilized in many schools sometimes. And you know, this is one of my favorite topics. I went to an event that a fellow clinician had this weekend, and he talked about self-sabotage. And there's so much more that I want to share on that, so much notes I was taking and gleaning from that, just being able to hear others and how they process different things. But friends, too often we are stealing, killing, and destroying our own selves, sabotaging ourselves. But guess what? There's hope, and we can make it through. So tonight's topic is talking about the counselor's office, and it's going to be really good. We have an amazing guest, so put on your seatbelts. You know, I got my notebook and pen because I take notes to make sure I get all these faces. There's so many good things that come. So help me welcome the amazing Dr. Anna Hernandez. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome. So I'm so excited to have you as a guest. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Over here at Jen Cares, we always start with a quote of the day. And today's quote of the day is, Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And that's by
Absolutely.
Auntie Maya. Again, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. What are your thoughts on that quote?
I think that's a great quote. I think a lot of us sometimes we just need information. We just need to know new things. And once we have that, we can really soar in anything we do. So I really think it's a choice. So I appreciate the quote because it inherent in the quote is this message that we have a choice in our lives. So
We have a choice, friends. And sometimes we think we don't have a choice because
Mhm.
life makes it seem that we don't have choices,
Exactly.
but we do have some choices. And oh, that's good to start. Because what are some choices that we have that we sometimes think we don't have, Dr. Hannah?
Well, we have the choice to be patient.
Mm.
We have the choice to be compassionate, understanding. We can choose love over hate. We can choose understanding over ignorance. We can choose to be proactive versus to be reactive.
Mm.
We can choose to pause.
Mm.
We there's a lot of choices,
A
right? Like
lot of
we can
choices.
choose a lot of things that
Mm.
I think, yeah, there's just a lot of things we can really do.
Again, that's a good one because sometimes we think, and that part of being patient, either we could be impatient or patient. We got to make the right choice, and hopefully, we're making good choices. And it's sometimes that we can speak up when we're being impatient, but it's also sometimes when we want to fall back out of patience. I
But
um I try to make the most of those moments, especially when something is like not as I would like it to be. Find someone else to keep myself motivated and focused until
yeah,
it does go. And it may or may not go how I wanted to go, but going with the flow of what is happening because that's
yeah,
what life is all about.
yeah.
So, share a little bit about yourself. Who is Dr. Anna?
Well, I am, by training, my profession is I'm a couple and family therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I do individual, couple, and family therapy. I'm located here in Boston, Massachusetts. I have a private practice. I have a PhD and a master's in family therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm originally from the Bronx, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my family's from Dominican Republic. I was first generation born in the United States. My mom immigrated here when she was 25 years old and already pregnant with me. So, as you can imagine, just embarking on a journey to a new country with a child in your belly, you don't know the culture or the language, and just figuring it out. And so, product of that journey. Yeah, and I've been sort of on this path to really develop my skills and be a great therapist and just really help other, just help people along their way in their life's journey. So, yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Help people along the way. So, one question before we get into some questions that I wanted to ask, the counselor's mind to help us out.
Mhm.
Um, since we're going back to school, let's take it back to school. Do
Yeah,
you remember going to the counselor's office as a student?
of course. Oh my God. I really enjoyed the counselor's office at my school. It was just a place, like, one of the things that I liked about the counselor's office at my school was, speaking of hope, they just believed in me. And I loved feeling that feeling when I was there. They just was very positive, optimistic. They just saw the best in me as a student. So I really liked going there. It was a really good place, especially in high school. I mean, for me, I don't know, right, but high school was tough. Like, just fitting in and and figuring out like who your friends are and just the pressures, taking different classes with different teachers who had different styles, different teaching styles, learning each like it was a lot.
Yeah.
And in the Bronx, I mean, we didn't have locker rooms, so we always had to carry all of our books for the whole day in our backpacks, with our coats. And sometimes I felt like the counselor's office was the place where I can just be and just kind of like be myself and just relax and talk about a lot of things that were going on. So I really participated a lot in their services.
Got it. That's awesome. Unfortunately, that's not everybody's story. I don't remember. I don't know that I remember going to the counselor's office too much in elementary and middle school. In elementary school, my mom knew the principal, so my mom would come and play for events and things of that sort.
Yeah.
I thought it was so embarrassing now that I'm older. I was like, that was so cool. My mom came, Um,
Yeah.
and if I had a situation, they was friends, so they can handle this type thing of that sort. But I do remember in high school going to the counselor's office because it was really big around going to college, so resources and things of that sort, seeing all the books, and also volunteering in a counselor's office. Not so much to talk about things too much, but the resources that she had was really beneficial, which helped to alleviate any stress or worries related to anything of life and what it will look like. But yeah, I sometimes feel like it wasn't utilized as much. And then for undergrad, I did my internship at a school, a middle school, in a counselor's office. So I thought it was pretty cool, but I was like, maybe this is not for me because you can't really take the kids out of class all day, every day. When they do come, you're trying to help them work through whatever is going on and send them on about their way. So they did a lot of fundraisers and other things. And I was like, I thought it was like the counseling and things that sort. If I knew now what I knew then, I would have said this is the way because it's a good balance. But it was awesome just to be able to again show people the light, show people the way. So did that motivate you to be a counselor? What motivated you to get into this field?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, looking back on it now, I think I know it played a role, but I don't remember it being at the front of my head, like when I was thinking about what I wanted to be. I knew, so I wanted to be a doctor, like a medical doctor, and so that didn't work out. So then I thought about nursing school. That didn't work out, and then like I took a psych class and loved it, and I really just liked the psychology, the terms and stuff. And then this was an undergrad, so it really resonated with me. It spoke to me, I felt like, as an individual, and it helped me understand more about like anxiety, for example. As a college student, I remember having a lot of that and panic attacks. So having a field that really talked about that stuff and what that meant and things like that, really, I think that was really what opened the door for me to really explore more. So I decided to continue to pursue, and I landed on the marriage and family therapy field. So yeah, that's how I kind of, and I just fell in love with it. So I continued to do that.
Yeah. So cool that you still did become a doctor. Maybe not in the original field you thought,
Yeah.
but still a doctor of the mind and helping people process those things. So what
Yeah.
made you choose your specialty?
Well, I think so. One of the things that really, it's just the family part. Like,
Right.
I just felt like I still feel this way. There is just something about family work that is just really special. And when I was looking at different fields and the different programs in the States, like in different colleges, universities, the family therapy field, the description really spoke to me. Like I felt like this was a place where I can really explore my family origin.
Yeah. And it's so good because like if somebody comes in for individual counseling, it's totally good. However, if they come in with their family, or if they come in with their spouse, the person they're having that challenge with, it's a different dynamic. So it helps you to, I want to say almost help a little bit more because you get to talk to more people. Like you could take one person and help them and they go back, but it's like so much of a force that they're fighting against. But if you have more people of the family and you're kind of getting them on board with what the goal is or whatever it is they came in for, sometimes I feel like you go a little further. Sometimes. It depends again what you're coming in for, what's being talked about, who's ready to really let go, or who's trying to hold on, who wants to go in for another round. But yes, family is pretty dope to be able to do. So cool. So how would you define counseling? Because counseling in some communities is not seen as a positive thing. And I'm so grateful. I watch a couple of YouTube couples or like some low budget movies and things of that sort. And I'm always excited about how they get to talk about something with counseling. If I like, or a black male saying like, yeah, I went to counseling, I was able to process it, and it was really great. But I'm trying to normalize the importance of mental wellness and mental health, mental health. So how would you define what counseling is?
Yeah, counseling, really is about guidance. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
So sorry.
All right. So, what is counseling? Counseling, as she said, really is about guidance. It's not telling you what to do, it's helping you to figure out what it is you're trying to do. Okay. So, when you go to the counselor, they're not telling you, they may give you some insight and some guidance, but you have to make the ultimate decision. That's like when you go to your physician, you go to see your doctor. When you go to see your doctor, they say, it may be good if you cut back on some sugar. It may be good if you, whatever it is, it's some guidance to help you and what it is you should be doing. Take it away, Dr. Anna.
Yes. And I think that's what it is with counseling in mental health or in general, right? It's about guidance. It's kind of like I see a counselor doing counseling, sort of giving advice, helping with your sense of direction, telling you a little bit about what they're noticing about, what you need, what will be best, and having a conversation around what you want out of life. Like, I think that's a big question for a lot of people. Like,
right.
What's my direction? What do I want? How do I make this decision?
Yes.
Like, so sometimes you just need someone to, because like our family want the best for us. And our parents are going to be parents, our siblings are going to be siblings, right? They're not like, so sometimes you just need another person who can just be a little bit more like focusing on just giving you what you want and need and helping you navigate that in a way that's a little bit more focused on you as an individual and your future. So that's what I see counseling, and I think that's what the benefit is.
Yeah, awesome.
And it could be when you have a really good counselor, that relationship, the trust, you can really share things with them that you don't totally want to really talk about with your parents or siblings or even close friends. It's just a place where you can just let it all out, and it's a non-judgmental environment. And it's really about you and your goals.
Yes. I love that trust bubble, because sometimes we have told people in our circle some things that were going on, and unfortunately they share with somebody else. With a therapist, one, they don't know all your people. So when they do share it, it's really in their supervisory and things of that sort, amongst other counselors, to be able to gain more insight of how to support and help you. But a lot of that stuff kind of really go with us to the grave. One, it's not our business to share with anybody. We're really just trying to help you, and I can't talk about your stuff, because guess what, sis, bro? I got my own stuff. Can I actually get on the couch and you talk to me? But that moment of trust and that non-judgmental is really, really big. The other part is that there's nobody taking sides. I have some friends that reach out to me every so often, who are married and they want some supporting things, and one to be like, pick a side, sis, pick a side. I'd be like, I don't pick sides. We talk about both sides, so that you can hear what the other is saying, and we try to find out where that middle ground is so that you could go forth. But if I'm always picking somebody's side, the other person's not going to talk to me. So you have somebody that's a neutral party that can really help. Now, sometimes it will appear that somebody's taking your side, but that's not really what's going on. You have to pay attention to what's really being said. You're trying to find, again, that medium, that happy medium where everybody can walk away understanding where to go from there. It's a crossroads.
I agree. Yeah. I think that's a really good point.
And being a counselor, what has been the biggest lesson you've learned from helping people?
The biggest lesson?
Or that you're learning because you're so active.
That's true. So far what comes up consistently is that people really want to be heard and understood.
Mm-hmm.
And for many reasons, that doesn't happen as often as we'd like to think. I find myself realizing and learning just how hard it is to communicate. Like, I know people come, especially families and couples, they know they have a communication problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like a pretty easy fix. Well, if they just understood what I was saying, or right? But I'm learning more clearly now that it's so much deeper than just talking. Like, there's so many things or skills that I don't think are commonplace in the way that they should be. And so I find that I'm learning a lot from my clients about how they really feel in ways that they sometimes tell me, like, wow, like, I'm just being able to talk about it in this way is new for me. Or like, you know, family members hearing their parents or their child express themselves in, or hearing things about someone they care about in a different way that had not really been expressed or explored before. And then we could talk about all the reasons why in another episode, but just I'm learning a lot about just how hard it is to really talk to one another. And so much is getting in the way. And just, I just love people's courage and vulnerability when it comes to therapy. Like, I understand that therapy is not always a go-to for a lot of people in communities, and there's a lot of history behind that. And the stigma is a lie. You know, I don't think therapy is for crazy people at all. I think we just need places to talk to each other deeply, and there aren't a lot of those places. And so to me, that's kind of what I've been learning so far in my work. It's not about the, you know, yes, it's about, to some extent, depression, anxiety, all this stuff. But to me, there's a deeper process going on here, that it's kind of about connection and being able to talk and connect. And that's way harder than I thought it was.
So true, so good. That heard and understood. I can't tell you how many couples I've come in contact with where that is such a stumbling block. Getting married is easy.
Yes.
Staying married is a different ball game.
Yes.
And it's sometimes even with friends and relationships that we have, that heard and understood. If you don't feel heard and understood, you leave the situation.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't always really have to leave the situation if we could really get it through to the other party what it is that you're feeling, what it is that's you're going through, and that other person listening. This is one of the big pieces that cheating comes in. One of a big piece, because that communication. And if they feel like they're not being heard, if they're feeling that they're not being understood, and they happen to come across somebody else that makes them feel heard, makes them feel understood, they then build this connection, which is
lonely. A lot of people suffer from loneliness because of that. Like, you could be in a relationship and be surrounded by family members and feel completely alone because nobody around you really gets you. And sometimes it's a lot of you know, learning how to listen, right? Like, it's a company. It's learning how to express yourself and be in tune with the emotions, but it's also learning how to listen. Like, what does that mean to really hear what the person is trying to communicate, and being patient with when they're trying to talk, giving them the space, right? And so there's just so much to it that I think, which is why I think counselors and therapists are just immensely valuable, because we really help with that a lot. You know, in a way that I think it's not only needed, but like, even for my own relationships, like, I've learned a lot in terms of, sometimes when my brother calls me, I just have to shh and just let him talk. Like, you know, not try to say stuff and try to just because I want to hear and be in the moment and present for whatever it is that they're trying to communicate. And so that's a practice and a skill that,
And that's so important. And again, as a therapist, you're definitely training yourself to do that, because I can get into some conversations with people. I'm like, Jennifer, you're not your therapist, you're not the counselor. Let them do what it is. And sometimes people don't want the solution they just want the hearer
Exactly.
So knowing what it is that the person wants. So simply asking that question,
Exactly.
that's a good tip that my friends that are listening can use in your daily living, of asking, before you tell me what would you like from me? Do you want me to just listen? Will you like me to give you
Yes.
feedback and things of that sort, so that you don't mess up you being like the Superman and Superwoman, when that is not what you were needed to be. You were just needed to be human, just woman, just man. And that piece of learning to listen is so crucial, because again, sometimes we're listening to speak instead of listening
Yes.
to hear.
Yes.
And it's so important. So
Yes.
friends, you want to listen to hear, not listen to speak.
And
Because
the way you sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, because you'll miss something, just trying to hear, like, oh, they stopped. Okay, let me go. And then it really was a question on the end. And then they have to repeat themselves. It's like, this is what I mean. You don't listen to me. And then you got another spiral going out of control.
Yep, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yep.
Goodness gracious.
A lot.
Yes. Hey, Mama Wanda. She says, staying married is the victory. It's a long journey. Yes, Mama Wanda has been married for some years. Hey, God sis. My God sis Jeannie has been married for some years. I always tell my God sister Jeannie that she is the MVP. Just because it is a task of getting to know somebody else on all stages of relationships, because I don't want to like say solely on, marriages, things, but friendships, really getting to know somebody else. Being a roommate with somebody, you find out, oh, that's what you do. You. Oh, okay. Whatever it is that may not rub you the right way, you're learning somebody else's personality. But guess what? As you're learning them and like holding your head up, like that it's not how it's supposed to be. You're doing some stuff too, sunshine. So you have to know that balance of, what am I doing? What are they doing? How can we find that medium? And that's what communication is, really kind of sharing what your thoughts are, how you're feeling. And sometimes you'll share your thoughts and they'll hear them and they'll still give you their behind to kiss a little bit or things of that sort. And you'll find out how important that relationship was to them. And how easy and hard is that sometimes when you find out what you thought was good is not as good. It's hard sometimes, friends. You had that close friend and then something happened, they just did you dirty and you don't even know how you're going to recover. And what happens is, if you felt like you weren't being heard, you felt like you weren't being understood, you tend to shut down.
Yes.
So then you don't want to talk to anybody. Talk about that. How is that process and how can one get out of that part of shutting down?
Well, I think one of the things is shutting down. I think it's a good thing because I think when you're hurt in that way, you need a moment to like close your doors emotionally, right? Like, hold up, like, and be with that pain for yourself. I think we sometimes move too quickly to like try to move past that. I normalize shutting down. It's like shutting down is a sign that there's an emotional, mental injury there, and you need to, gather yourself and feel what you're feeling and kind of, and that can take as long as you need, right? There's no pressure. Like, I got to get over it tomorrow because I got to talk to her. No, you feel your feelings and shut down for a little bit, and people will respect that, hopefully, and when you're ready to have a conversation about how this person hurt you, I think, then you can do that. But and the way to do that is by first really coming to terms with what you're feeling and why whatever that person did and how they did you dirty, like, impacted you, getting some clarity around that, because you're going to want to express that as clear as you can. And with, because sometimes when we try to talk in anger, the anger muddies the message a little bit. Sometimes people can't hear our message when we're angry. They just hear the anger. And so sometimes it's okay to like be with what you're feeling and be in your shutdown mode until you can sort of get some clarity and understanding for yourself about what happened, and be able, when you're ready to reconnect and reconcile with this person, you can really speak to what the pain was. So I normalize shutting down. It's like, yes.
It's definitely good and it's definitely needed. I do encourage that you verbalize that to the people, because if you married to this person, if you buddy with this person, he was talking to them all 24/7 things, and then you just shut down and you ain't saying nothing, you can have another problem when you're ready to talk. Okay, so please verbalize. I need a moment.
Yes.
This is what's happening, and things best when you take
Yeah.
that. Ironically, I just recently started leading some anger management groups, and we teach that anger is a secondary emotion. We resort to anger to cover up another feeling that's going on deeper. And the benefit of taking that pause, because when you're angry, you know how to express that really well.
Exactly.
You want to find out why you are angry.
Exactly.
Because if you go off of being angry, 11 million different things can happen, and you just going off, and you and what that wasn't even me. I didn't do that. Wrong person. So we want to make sure that when we are sharing, we're sharing from a place of sound mind. We're sharing from a place of peace. Because if you want to get turned up, go ahead and start that while you're angry, because it's going to agitate the fire to keep it going. But if you're trying to settle that fire, if you're trying to put that fire out, you want to be able to calm down. I always tell the story of my niece cut her hair one time. She thought she was a beautician, and she cut it. And she couldn't respond at that moment because she was too upset that she did it.
Yeah.
She took a moment, and that's so important, because she could have scarred that baby. Who else knows what could have happened? But when you take a beat, you didn't come back with fresh eyes.
Yes. And I love what you said about the secondary emotion, because you're right, because that's what it does. You tap, once you kind of, if you allow yourself, the anger is valid and it needs to be there. Yes. And there's more under there, so that you can start to talk about the underlying emotions that are harder to access. Like shame and hopelessness and betrayal and all those other stuff that I think can really, and that's what you want to speak from.
Yes.
So I'm glad that that's something that you're experiencing people are doing too, because I think it's a good piece to really.
We're trying to help.
Kind of back to the pause,
Yes, you have to. And again, even finding out why you felt betrayed, why you felt unworthy, why you felt undeserving, why you felt whatever that feeling was too, so that you can help to verbalize that. Because sometimes we're feeling like we're not being heard or understood, and we're having trouble communicating what it is. But the thing is, if you at least start, Dr. Anna, today was just a bad day. Well, why was it a bad day? And then I go step by step to kind of recount what was going on. We could get to the root. And then it turns out that it wasn't so much that bad things happened that day. You didn't go to bed at a good time, so you was a little antsy when you woke up. You needed a nap. Today I needed a nap because I did not go to bed at the time I should have. But still had to show up, still had to be present. And that after a while could be overwhelming, because you don't want to be on game all the time. You want to fall back, but you have to know what it is that helps you to feel when you can be present, can be available, can be, on your game, and not irritated, agitated of this is a bad day, it just stinks.
Right?
That's a process.
It is.
That's a process. How often, what is the reason that most people come to counseling, or consider coming to counseling, would you say?
Well, sometimes, so it really depends. So sometimes if it's like a couple or a family, it's usually communication. That's like the number one thing. They just are not getting through to each other in a way that they feel like it's constructive. For individuals, a lot of it is just needing help figuring out managing their day-to-day stuff, whether it's work or family life, or some people know that they have a lot of anxiety, which I don't like to talk about diagnosis, but it's like in the formal sense. But like, so I break it down into like just worrying, because that's really what anxiety is. Right. It's a lot of worry, right. And worry in overdrive that now you can't even, like, you're restless and you're hard. So you're worrying a lot. So a lot of people worry a lot about a lot of things, and some people just feel unmotivated in life and feel like they don't have a path or are stuck in some area, whether it's their health or their romantic life or their job, right? Like they can't see beyond the week or the day, right? So then you start tapping into what's considered depression, right? Because they're just not really their sense of meaning. So that's really the core of what I get mostly. Mm-hmm. So it's like a lot of communication and worry and just lack of motivation and meaning. That's a very prevalent thing that sort of I get a lot.
Friends, let's sit here for a second, because this anxiety is real. This worry is real. This overthinking is real. Asher, I went to this event this weekend, and some of the people were sharing. It was like a panel, open discussion about it, self-sabotage. And one of the things was, because I'm an overthinker. It's great that you're acknowledge you're overthinker, but let's talk about that and the damage that it can do. Now, sometimes when you're overthinking, it does work out, and it's like, that worked out. But can you count how many times you're overthinking did not end to that successful end? And what happens is, because of that one good time, we feel like we have to go through this process to get to that successful end, and we may or may not get there again. So essentially, it's like being in a car with no gas or not enough gas. We got enough gas to get us started, but then we get out here and we're lost, we're stranded, no GPS signal, and we're thinking that no, because this equal to this to this, and it wasn't even so. And sometimes if we communicate with someone else, we can find out what's going on. And that worry, that anxiety can cause us to have some health problems. I have some friends that deal with anxiety, and like, I'm having headaches, I'm being my stomach is in knots and things of that sort. And if we don't address some of these things, it could cause us a problem in another area. So we want to be careful and mindful if we're finding ourselves worrying too much. Please believe, friend, it will work out. You may need to connect with a resource to get some support. You may need to connect with a therapist or a counselor to get some support. The Employee Assistance Program is the most underutilized service that you get with your benefits. It's a free service where you could give somebody a call on a telephone and talk through what's going on, and that will help you get yourself together where you feel a little inspired and like you could go on. And it's amazing. One call could do so much. I had a friend, they had a driver for a program, and she was like, can you talk to him? He's like really going through and things of that sort. I said, sure, not a problem. So he drives and things of that sort. So he called me while he was on the road one of the days, and we spoke on the phone for at least an hour or so. And he was like, I'm glad I got to talk that out. He felt heard, he felt understood, and he was like, I can work this out. I said, my number is always open if ever you need somebody to talk to. Why? Because I'd rather you talk to me before you do something that you can't come back from.
Yes.
But you have to reach out to somebody. You have to call on that person who's your lifeline to be able to support and give you love and encouragement in that moment, or to help you just listen. So again, if you're feeling like you're worrying, please, please, please call a friend. Connect with somebody who is knowledgeable in the area, professional in the area. Because again, sometimes we could go to some people, and depending on the topic, and be like, yeah, no, what time we going? Let's set it off. Do we always have to set it off? Can't we just talk it out? Everybody's ready to do all these violent things. And old school, we kind of like talked it out a little bit more. Or like the intensity of the attack of getting to the root of whatever it was a lot different. And now it's like, we got to go 1,000. Let's see what 20 looks like. Let's see what 10 looks like. Because also being that person that's rowdy, rah all the time, it's not always good for your name. Because who wants to, deal with somebody that's going to always do those things? Now, again, you can be reformed, you can change, but it takes work. And that's the work that I'm talking about, is doing, reaching out to somebody to talk about what's going on, to get to the root of why I am angry, why I am mad, why I am sad. Am I really happy or am I putting on a facade? Really finding out what's going on and being in tune with your feelings. Let's talk about that. Because I don't think we even know our feelings sometimes. I'll get in a conversation, how you feeling? They say good. Good is not a feeling. And that comes from me doing sanctuary work because you got to go around the feelings chart. How can I support you today? What are your goals for the day? And they'll be like, good. What does good mean? What does that look like? But then you can also tell me you're happy, and I want to know what does that look like and how we can keep that going for you. But then sad, processing that. So what is some insight that you have that you can share with us about addressing our feelings, acknowledging our feelings, and knowing what it is that we really are feeling?
I think you raise a really important point around the way we use words like fine and good and okay. Because I agree, those are not actual feelings. And so I think I would advise people to really listen to that piece that you're talking about, because I sometimes have to think about how often am I just saying like, "Oh, I'm fine," but like I actually really had a rough morning, so I'm not fine. I'm actually feeling defeated, right? And so a lot of it is habit. Like we just sort of get into habit of just saying, not superficial, but just not sharing more about what we're really feeling. Um, I encourage people to journal all the time, my clients. I think it's a really good, private, healthy way to get our thoughts out.
Yes.
And then reading what you wrote and identifying the feeling there. Because although again, I mean that's an activity that I think helps us really get in touch with our feelings a little bit better. I have a lot of clients that I give them the homework assignment of journaling, and then I invite them to share an entry that they had, and we process it. And usually the way I do it is I share how I'm feeling, reading their word, hearing them read their words. It's a good way to help people really connect with themselves. I do think we live a good amount of detachment from ourselves day to day. And I think it's a survival skill. I think it's just, like we're just trying to go to work, get paid, go to, take care of our family. We're just doing everything and just trying to stay on top. So it's not like our fault, or it's not like something to be ashamed about, or something to be like, it's not a bad thing. It's just the situation. But if we develop spaces like journaling, which is a private thing you can do on your own, where you can just write down your thoughts and feelings, it's a good way to connect to your feelings so that you can really know yourself a little bit deeper around that.
That's a good one. And as growing up, so my back to school, as a child, my parents would give us a diary, the girls. I don't know if you guys got any, but the girls, we got a diary. And I can't tell you how good I would feel after I wrote down all my thoughts about how Johnny, did whatever he did, or how Sue did whatever she did, going through the list, but like getting all your thoughts out while it didn't have to weigh on you because you felt like you kind of released it a little bit. You put a little lock on there, you couldn't tell me nothing, hid the key so nobody could find out, right? But the importance was getting it out,
Exactly.
And sometimes we don't get it out. We hold on to it. I was like, no, I remember what Johnny did. I remember what Sue did. And if we could let some of it like go a little bit, because eventually we could pop if we hold too much of it in. So definitely a diary is good. People think that it's corny, it's boring. I use like the notes on my phone to like jot down some things. I was like tracking a situation. And once it was over, I deleted all of it because I didn't need it anymore. But I went back to it as I needed for reminders and things of that sort and encouragement. But once I had conquered that thing, I was like, oh, yep, I don't need that anymore. But I had the mental reminder to let me know of the different things. So I do encourage, you to write some things out. Talk some things out. You may want to record a note on your phone because you felt like you got it out. It's like somebody says something, do something, you want to text them back, you want to go in.
Right.
But then don't hit send. Please don't hit send, friends, because when it's out there, we can't take it back, But you get to get it out in some form.
Yes.
Create a dummy email account. Send it to yourself, But yeah.
Yeah, poetry is another one. Sometimes people just need to write a poem. If you're into music, you could do some lyrics on it. You can be creative. Send it to yourself. There's a lot. It's not you don't. It doesn't have to be this traditional journaling form. It could be really any way.
Yes. And find out what works for you. You might not be a writer. You might not feel like your handwriting is chicken scratch. Draw. We have those that are artists and things of that sort. So whatever it is, it could be going out to garden. Talking to the garden and things like that. Whatever it is that helps you to kind of work through those feelings and things. Another part you shared was, the feelings that we do have when we identify what a real feeling is, and the piece of feeling defeated. Knowing that, guess what? We're human. It's okay if we feel defeated. The hope is that we don't stay there. What can we do to get out of that feeling of defeat? Why? Because there's some other times that we have come out victorious. So how can we get back there? We do not pass every time. This last week I had a chance to share about Chosen, and I always share about the 409 cleaner, where the two Detroit scientists came together to create it. It took them 409 times to come up with it, and that's how they got their name. And I talked to the students there, and I said, "Could you imagine doing that 409 times?" They was like, "No."
Right.
I said, "But guess what? You've all been alive more than 409 days. Meaning every day you try again."
Wow.
And knowing that you have a new start every day to try again. So friends, don't give up on yourself. We are human. But also acknowledging the capacity of how much we could take and how much others could take, and who we need to maybe go to get that support. Because it's but so much I could go to a friend about if they're not a doctor. It's only but so much I could go to WebMD before I done killed myself 5-11 times, and they say let me go to the real doctor so they can see what's really going on. Because WebMD is broad, but when you go to the doctor, we can kind of pinpoint.
Oh yes.
What's wrong with you? And that's therapy too. You get to pinpoint.
Yes.
No longer being broad, but what is it for Jennifer? What is it for Dr. Anna?
Exactly.
And what is it for Anna? Because being a doctor is great, but Anna still got some stuff,
Right.
So what is it for Anna? What is it for Jennifer? What is it for Jeannie? What is it for Wanda? What is it for every friend that's listening? Right. So know how you can move forward. Got to pinpoint that thing. Got to be on target. So good. So good.
I really liked what you're saying because it's something I say all the time to my clients because and Google is great and it's not to knock these services, but that's our go-to sometimes, and you don't realize that that's feeding into the worry, and it's unnecessary because you're reading something that doesn't necessarily apply to you, but you're reading it as if it is, and so now you're over here worrying about this thing that. If you just go to your doctor, they can tell you, actually, you wouldn't have this, or you don't, you're not at risk for X, Y, and Z, or right? Because they know they have your chart, they have your information. They know that that's not gonna happen to you because you're not in that high risk category, right? Or whatever the case is.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes people don't understand that that's a huge I know when I was pregnant, I knew that this excessive worry was going to take over because that's usually how I am. And I made it a point that I was not going to Google anything. I'm not going to go online. I'm not going to talk to strangers. I'm not going to go to a pregnant group. I'm not doing any of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my OBGYN visits, and whatever she says is what I'm going to do. And if she's not worried, I'm not worried. That was my commitment to myself. I got through it because I was like, I'm only going to trust one person who's been seeing me consistently. Their word is what matters because they actually know me. And that's it. I'm tuning everything out.
And that's so important because we go to so many different people and then we have so many different pieces of advice. That's like, if you go to one person and ask them how to make a cake, they may say, you go and get that box down there and you follow the directions on the box. You ask somebody else how to make a cake. Oh, you go down to the supermarket and go to the bakery section. You ask somebody else how to make a cake. They telling you how to make it from scratch. You ask somebody else how to make a cake. They saying, look, you got to go to my cousin. She make the bomb cakes, which is great because they all give you that result. But you got to find what works for you and stick with that. Eventually you might add on, but so many times if we listen to so many different ears, we like, what?
Exactly.
Confused. And it was as simple as just going forth. Go ahead and buy it. If you're not a baker, just buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to try baking it, go ahead, but don't do it around the holiday times because that ain't the time to be trying it with the friends and family, okay? But you try it and things that sort, but don't get yourself overwhelmed. And that's so, so good of keeping yourself focused on that, because again, some will look at Google, some will look at WebMD, and then they'll get caught up in their mind that they have diagnosed themselves.
Yeah.
Don't go to the doctor. So then they're more worried, because if it's a growth or something and it's growing more, like, well, let me just cover it up.
Exactly.
It's only but so much that you could cover up, friends.
Exactly.
It's only but so much anger you could cover up. It's only so much disappointment you could cover up. It's only so much frustration you could cover up, where after a while it's about to pop. And it's going to affect you and those that are around you. It's going to be like a little ripple effect. And it's like, wait, what's going on with you?
It's true.
So we want to be able to go to somebody to get that support, to know what's going on. And if it's that doctor, going to that doctor, because again, they have followed you. They know what works best for you. You have disclosed all of your history to them. And sometimes people are giving you information that they don't know your history.
No.
You're like, should I go and gamble? And they like, yeah, go ahead and do it. And don't know that you got a money problem, sis.
Exactly.
Bruh, don't go gamble. I saw the video, the guy was on the floor, oh my money. Sir.
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking, to get into the situation, to have to rebuild after you done lost all your money because you thought that you would win. Please don't take chances with your life. Talk to somebody. Somebody is willing to hear what is going on with you, to help you process what is going on with you. You are not alone. Don't underutilize the counselor's office. You might have not even known who a counselor was when you was going to school, but we know now. So again, please, let's talk about expectations when going to counseling. Because I feel like if I go, when I leave, everything is going to be great, right? It's going to be like magic, right?
I wish that were true. Yes, I wish that could be what happens after a first session, but it's not. And it's not, it's just, it takes time. Usually when you first start counseling, a lot of it, especially in the beginning, you're getting to know each other. Like they're getting to know you and you're getting to know them. And it's a lot of sort of like, sometimes it's a formal history intake assessment, but sometimes it's very informal, just getting to know like about yourself. And that takes time. For some people though, it just having the space to talk about things can already be what do you call it, like a relief. It might not be a solution, like now your problems are gone and you're a new person, but it just could, most people tend to feel better after it because they're letting out things and thoughts and feelings that they've been holding in, right? Like kind of what you're saying about how much can you cover up, right? Like this is a place where you can just sort of go delve into those things. So you get relief out of it. Usually you won't get like a complete solution, but that part takes some time, and that time varies depending on the individual and their resources, their commitment. Some people just have a lot to work on, and that takes time to like get through it. It's not a testament to you and your effort or anything. It's just some things are just harder to overcome. So it's not about a time frame for me. It's just like, it's more about just the fact that you're talking to someone and coming up with things.
Yeah. So. That's good. Because like if you were a child growing up and you ate your grits, because this is always the great debate, with cheese and sugar, and somebody else ate theirs with salt and pepper, it doesn't make sense to you. Well, butter, salt, pepper, butter, cheese, and things like that. It doesn't make sense to you that they don't eat it how you eat it, right? But it takes time to keep on processing. But after a while, you find out, you know what? I'm not going to yuck their yum. That's what they like. What I like is what I like. And you may try, may not try things of that sort. But the thing is that it does take time, because all your life, you knew salt, pepper, butter. But to know that there's a possibility that you could try it a different way. People don't like fried grits, you could tried a different way, It went from a regular Oreo to a fried Oreo to a milkshake. There are different ways that things can happen, and being okay, whether it affects you or doesn't affect you. Most of the time it doesn't affect you. If somebody else is eating a milkshake and you can't do the milk, please get the lactose free. But you find what works for you, and when you're going to counseling, it does take time because you could be so mind boggled of how it is that they're doing whatever it is. How is it affecting you? What's that process look like for you?
Yes.
And things of that sort. It really is that onion. And I go back to that part of don't give up on you, because you can start a conversation and then it hits something that you thought that you would heal from. It hit something that you had covered real nicely and cooked in a corner. And you're like, oh, I ain't going no more. It was in my business. No, sunshine. This is what we came for. This is why we're talking. Please come back again. Really processing through what is going on. Don't give up on yourself, because you're going to hit some stuff that's going to rub you the wrong way. You're going to hit some stuff that you thought you healed from. You're going to hit some stuff that you even forgot on purpose. Life happens. It's like, oh, I'm not going to remember that. I'm going to put that so far in my mind and not going to affect me. But then you're talking about something, you're processing something, and it triggers and opens up the attic. And those things that you had put in the upper room, your upper thoughts, and you thought wasn't going to come back up again, but you had to deal with that to be able to successfully have a good relationship with other people. If we have it's like, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. But in your head, it looked like when a person had a bad temper and came out with it, it caused the other person to respond better.
Yeah.
Sometimes that thing will try to creep on down. And if you don't want that to happen, we have to deal with that. What can I do instead of allowing my temper to go crazy? And that takes a process, because if you used to always fighting, instinct gonna say I gotta fight. They're not gonna do that to me. One of the kids in one of the groups I was doing, he was like, well, somebody say something, we fighting. What you want to do when you get older? Can you always fight in those situations? Really trying to bring it where they understand, like, that cannot always be a go-to. There's sometimes that you do have to fight, and it doesn't mean physical. You want to fight for yourself, speak up for yourself, and things of that sort. But do we have to fight all the time? Do we have to knock somebody down all the time? We want to be able to process those things and not hide them, but really address what's going on, because then you get free. As you shared at the end of being able to talk, you're like, oh, I felt a little bit better. Let me come back again. Keep going. Talk it out.
Yeah. And I really think that when it comes to to fighting or physical, I like to validate, and I know it's not conventional, but I like to validate that process and frame it as like you are literally fighting for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what it is right now.
Yes.
But let's add to that, kind of what we were saying, like, what are other ways you can fight for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, does it have to be physical? Like, maybe for you, it has to be sometimes. But like what you're saying, let's look at other ways to fight for yourself. People fight for themselves different ways, by voicing your opinions,
Mm-hmm.
by taking a stand,
Mm-hmm.
by not taking a stand,
Mm-hmm.
by achieving. Like, sometimes success is the best revenge.
Right.
Sometimes, kind of broadening that lens a little bit about what it means to stick up for yourself. But yeah, I think it's, and this is what I think counseling, this is why counselors are important, because these are the conversations that I think could be really beneficial for people to really talk through.
And I also want to throw out a disclaimer that counselors are also a good representative or example of one that keeps their emotions in check, because we can't get nothing on our clearances if we want to keep on helping some of y'all. So no matter how crazy it got, I can't always go there, because I gotta keep my clearances clear. And it's so funny when I do different programs and they like want to run your clearances. They was like, nothing's going to come up on your clearances, right? I said, no, ma'am. What? Oh, I'm not jeopardizing this. I work too hard for these things, got to keep it together. So again, okay, so what did you do to help keep yourself together when you wanted to, yank somebody out? What did you do? So a fine example of how to keep yourself level-headed in tough situations, because life is going to life. It's going to throw some curveballs at you. but we want to be able to respond in a way that we feel good about.
Mm.
And I saw this post where, because we're in the season of petty. We've been in this season
Oh.
of petty for a long time, and the guy found out that his wife was cheating. She went on a trip, and he sold the house, sold all her stuff, and had another spot set up for himself. There's other ways that we can express our
Yeah.
feelings. Again, because a backlash comes in a different way. So also being knowledgeable that if I do this, exploring what your options are. If I do A, what could happen? If I do B, what would happen? If I do C, what happened? Now again, he feeling good about himself because he got somewhere to go and she gonna figure it out. But could they have had a conversation? Possibly. Could it have worked out? Possibly. But also,
Right.
there are also some deal breakers. And sometimes we get upset with people because they're leaving situations. But if that's what works for them, you got to allow people to do what works for them. But again, I do still encourage you to talk to somebody, write it out, journal it out, draw it out, scream it out, dance it out, whatever it out, so that you will become overwhelmed with anxiety because it can trickle
Mhm.
in other areas. Mm.
Yeah.
Whew, this was really good. What's something that you would want us to walk away with?
Oh wow. Well, I think back to what we started talking about. Like, we have options and we have choices. And don't believe the lie that we have to do things the way we've always done it, especially if it's not serving us anymore. And people know when things are not serving them, and there's options out there and there are choices, and we can, you know, um, open ourselves up to make small changes to do things differently. I think that's really, I would say that would be what I think we can walk away with.
Yes, we do have
Because there is hope
yes.
in that, right?
Mother India said it doesn't cost a thing to smile.
Right.
Doesn't cost a thing to laugh. Better thank God for that. There's hope. But something else you said in that closing was so powerful too. Of we don't have to do things how we've always done them.
Yeah.
And growing up, we was always taught what happens in our house stays in our house. And sometimes our house is on fire, and we're not telling
And
nobody.
our house is on fire, and the neighbor down the street's house is on fire, and you don't know, and they don't know about you. And you both, if you talk about it openly, you will find that other people will find solace and consolation in your story because you're not alone, right? We can help each other out somehow. And that's really important thing too that you were mentioning.
You are not alone. The late Michael Jackson said, I am here with you. Long as
Mm-hmm.
my fault. You're always in
Mm-hmm.
my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, you are not alone. You are always in my heart. I'm always thinking well wishes for you and want you to live the best life that you can. And again, that's why we put forth this to encourage, inspire, and strengthen somebody to know that they're not alone. You can make a choice. Again, we've all made a choice that was good. We've all made a choice that was bad. We all made a choice that we learned to do better the next time around. But know that you can make it because there is hope. Mm. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dr. Anna. This was really good.
Thank you so much. It was
Yes,
a pleasure.
yes. I hope I didn't harass you too much because, friends, I'd be like reaching out. Some ideas come to my mind, and then I'd be like, oh, this is a good person. This would be a good person. And I'd be like, Joel. But I do truly, truly appreciate you for saying yes and for coming on and sharing your expertise. And I hope that something that was said today encouraged somebody that is watching or that will watch. And again, that they could share with somebody in a regular conversation of knowing, you know what? You got a choice. You ain't got to give nobody the credit. You just go ahead and talk because it's something you learned, it's something you're applying, and you want to share it. So go on, friend, and share it with somebody else. So again, I thank you so much for joining us tonight. May you have a great, great evening.
Thank you. You too.
Yes. Oh, that was so amazing, friends. We had the amazing Dr. Anna Hernandez, and I hope that you enjoyed tonight's session. Yeah, because it was a session. Let me go back to the comments. Hey, Mama Wanda, I thank God for my counselor and her guests. I thank God for you too, Mama Wanda. I thank God for each and every one of you for tuning in. Because as shared, it does encourage me to keep on going just a little while longer because we're all about helping and encouraging somebody else. Don't forget our quote of the day. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Again, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, let me show my face. Do better. Okay, friend? Let's do better because there is hope. Be sure to join us on next week as we will have Jessica Williams for our Adult and Strong. Friends, let me tell you something. Growing up as a kid, I was like, I can't wait to be an adult. You know, some of us said that. Now that I know now what I know then, whew, I would tell kids you got more years to be an adult than you do to be a child. Enjoy it. You know, no bills, uh, no worries, or you have worries. I'm not gonna say you don't have worries, but it was a different kind of worry. It was like, why Susu didn't come on my house and she went over to Sunshine's house, you know, things of that sort. But the responsibility that comes with adulting can be overwhelming. And I want to talk about that. I read her story and wait till she comes next week and shares it. It's amazing. This thing of adulting is serious, you know. I joke about Toys R Us. I want to be a Toys R Us kid, but even Toys R Us didn't make it. Why? Because you can't be a kid all the time. Eventually, we got to grow. Why? Because when we know better, we do better. So be sure to tune in next week. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. I am so grateful to offer this series, our back to school series. Again, I do hope that you enjoyed tonight. Be sure to share this good information with somebody else in your daily conversations. Don't give up on you because there's hope. I love you all for real. Until the next time, good night.
Friends, we thank you for joining Jen Cares this week. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Unable to watch us live? Be sure to find us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also visit our website, chosencounselors.com. That's chosen with a Z, so that you can stay in the know and most of all, never miss a show. If you found value in this episode, we'd appreciate you sharing it with a friend. Most of all, be sure to tune in for our next episode next Monday at 8 p.m. right here as we specialize in bringing the community to you.